If you are in remote tech sales and you feel like you are just constantly chasing deals that just disappear, or you're stuck in those sales cycles that just drag on forever, and you are lying awake just wondering if anything that you are working on is going to close, the good news is this isn't your fault, but it is your problem, but it's definitely fixable. I'm Kristen, and I went from teaching 7th graders to closing 7-figure deals for billion-dollar tech companies like Salesforce, Outreach, and Tableau. So for the longest time, I just felt like I was just throwing stuff against the wall and just praying that something would work. And when it did work, I didn't really know what worked about it, and I didn't know why. But then I figured out something that changed everything for me. Our buyers, they are only talking to us about 5% of the time that they are actually in a sales cycle. So what the heck are they doing the other 95% of the time? I'm going to walk you through the 5 things that absolutely have to happen when we are not in the room. And if you nail these, you're going to stop feeling like deals are just this mysterious black box, and you're going to actually start knowing why you win. Number 1, we have to find and develop real champions. We shouldn't just wait for a champion to appear. We need to find them, and then more importantly, we need to develop them. Now let's start with vocabulary, right? Most reps think a champion is anybody who likes their product. Wrong. A real champion has 3 things, and these are non-negotiable. They have to have genuine influence in the buying decision. They have to have a personal problem, which our solution solves, and they have to be willing to sell for us when we are not in the room. My friend Nate calls this conversations about us without us, and there's a lot of them. So here's how you identify them. We want to ask them direct questions, things like, hey, walk me through how decisions like this typically get made here. And, oh, wow, that sounds like, a big deal. This sounds like a big problem. What happens if we don't solve this? How many departments are affected by the ripple effects that this is having? How many teams are impacted here? And we can even tell them, hey, you know what? I'm seeing across all of my customers that unless this is tied to a specific C-level priority, it's just not going to get funded. So I'm curious, which C-level priority do you think this most closely lines up to? And then who's responsible for the success of that C-level priority? Folks that give us real answers, that they give us the details, or they are willing to go chase down these details and then bring them back to us, and they share their personal pain points. And then they make introductions with people that they find out are important in the deal. These are champion behaviors. If we get vague responses or gatekeeping behaviors, or they are stalling on next steps, they are not a champion. Finding somebody who might be a champion is the beginning, but it's not enough. We have to develop them. People talk about champion testing. I don't like that. I do like developing them, right? We have to remember it is far more risky to be a buyer than to be a seller. Sellers very rarely get fired if one individual deal is lost. But executives, if they have one major initiative fail, that is frequently enough to spell the end of their time at that organization. So champions, they are putting their reputation on the line for us. They are willing to do that. And we need to develop that by making the ask and then delivering on the things they need to help them sell internally. That leads right into number 2, which is multi-threading strategically, not desperately. Multi-threading, let's get clear on what it is and what it isn't. Multi-threading is not talking to as many people as possible. It is not mass emailing everybody who's involved with the deal. It is about mapping that buying center and then ensuring that every conversation, every note, every touch point serves a specific purpose. We have to understand who has influence, who has budget authority, who will actually use the solution, right? Who's the end user, and who could kill the deal, and why might they want to do that? So that all sounds easy enough, right? Because that's the what we should do. I think many people know the what. It's the how that we are so rarely taught by sales managers or enablement teams. So I'm going to give you my framework. First thing, we want to identify 3 kinds of folks: the economic buyer, the technical evaluator, and then the end user. Okay, then we want to create specific engagement strategies for each of these folks. So the economic buyer, they are going to need to see both cost of inaction for their specific situation, return on investment for their specific situation using their numbers. We have to collaborate with them, not hand it to them. Okay, and risk mitigation. They have to understand, how are we covering off on all of the bases so that this risky decision feels less risky than staying with what they currently have, right? So that's the economic buyer. The technical evaluator needs things like trials, proof of concepts, and integration details. They need specifics. We can't be vague or big picture here. These are the people that need the nitty gritty. They need proof of concept. They need short trials with specific success criteria attached to them, right? They need integration details. Great way to multi-thread here is to have folks who are the technical component, folks who are technical resources on our side, be directly in contact with technical resources on the buyer side. So if we are lucky enough to have solution consultants, solution engineers, solution architects, these people can be directly contacted with the technical buyers on the other side. That's another thing that multi-threading isn't. Multi-threading does not mean we as the seller need to have every single individual touch point with every person involved in the deal. Frequently in enterprise selling, multi-threading is the rep being the conductor of the orchestra, not the solo. We bring in the technical resources on our side, and then they kind of fade because then we bring in executive buyers, right? Then we bring in end user champions from other customers who can speak to end users in our prospect or buying groups, right? It doesn't have to be us doing all the speaking, all the touch points. In fact, it's better if we don't. We can be, whatever you like to call it, the conductor, the quarterback. In other words, we are the ones coordinating the folks who are in the best positions to be helping the people on the buying team. And that includes end users, right? They need to see how their life improves. There's lots of ways to do this. Many times that is during a pilot or proof of concept. That can also be getting them an email or a video or even a live call with another end user at a different organization who solved the same problems. This can be hugely powerful. When I sold to school districts, it was these sort of end user connections that actually gave my buyers the most confidence. So don't overlook that. So what's the outcome of that? Well, while average reps are scrambling because their deals are slipping or stalling or ghosting, they can't get a response, top performers already know exactly who they need to influence and how to do it, who they can bring in from all sides to make that multi-threading, to make those touch points the most impactful they can possibly be. Also, top reps don't multi-thread reactively, they are proactively. So what a reactive rep sounds like is, oh, okay, they want to meet with legal now. Let me go ahead and arrange that. Strategic reps multi-thread proactively. They say, hey, our legal teams are gonna need to connect over this. We find that a 15 to 30 minute meeting at the beginning of negotiations can save all of us 100 emails or DMs going back and forth. Something else that's frequently overlooked is the art of selling between meetings. I had a mentor introduce me to this concept, and my life has never been the same. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. So what do I mean by selling between meetings? Between meetings, your champions are having conversations that you will never be in, right? Those conversations about us, without us. And what do those conversations sound like? It's all different conversations. They are getting questioned by their boss. They are getting challenged by procurement. They are getting second guessed by other departments, the original people who brought in this old solution that don't want to have egg on their face, right? They brought in the status quo. They feel obligated to defend it. If we have not equipped those folks properly, that's where our deal dies, in those conversations we will never be a part of, right? And so we don't even usually know why. We just hear, we're going in another direction, or we've decided to stay with our current solution, and then we can't get another answer. This is why our champions need things like a clear value story that they can repeat. Analogies are word pictures. They are pictures for the brain. And that is something that sellers frequently overlook, but there's this saying, right? A picture is worth 1,000 words. If we can give them a value story that includes a word picture, an analogy that helps that light come on across the organization that says, oh, I get it, that can shave months off your deals, right? So they need a value story, ideally with an analogy. They need answers to the most common objections, and not even really objections, don't think of them that way. Think about them as concerns, right? This is a big purchase. People are going to have concerns. We've heard them. We've been on the other side of the buying journey, right? So we should know, hey, here are things that people usually have questions about. Here's something that normally folks have a bit of concern over. Here's something that can feel a bit risky. Then we need to proactively provide information around that. It shouldn't sound like defenses. They shouldn't sound like rebuttals. They should sound like explanations, because that's what they are. Social proof can sound like a number of things. If we can name off not just 2 or 3 folks that use our solution that are either their competitors or very recognizable logos, if we can name 7 or 8, that's a huge way to just start them thinking about social proof. And there's a lot of people that I recognize that are using this. Think about you just as an individual buyer whenever so doing a popcorn strategy where we pop off 7 or 8 names of folks that are using us, that's one. That's a really simple one. Another one is helping our reference customers at multi-levels in the organization, end users, technical evaluators, managers of end users, executives, provide firsthand emailed references, which are a much smaller ask than a reference phone call, right? And those reference emails, we can help draft those. And I'm going to get to that in just a second. But these are all examples of what I call sell between resources, where I create personalized resources for each type of influencer and each type of question that they are asking as they move farther down the sales cycle. We're dripping those resources out in between meetings. And that's doing things like email, text, LinkedIn DMs, short videos, even voicemails. We have to be multi-channel and multimedia. Old school buyers love to have you pick up the phone. Some buyers are like, never call me, just text me, right? We have to pay attention to that, right? We have to meet them where they are in both mindset and medium. Buyers are experts in how to do their jobs. They are not experts in how to buy our thing. One analogy I like to use here that kind of makes the light bulb come on for a lot of reps is think about the climbers who climb Mount Everest. These are expert climbers. They are amazing athletes. Everest is not something you do as a first climb, right? Like they've done this before. They are experts in stamina, in biohacking, in their own bodies, but they are not experts on Everest. That's why when they go to Everest, they hire a Sherpa. The Sherpa is the guide to that specific mountain. As sellers, we are the guide to this specific mountain. So what does that look like? What does that mean in practicality? We map out the typical buying process for them. Typically is a magic word. So you're going to hear me say it a lot. The reason typically is a magic word is something called herd theory. Herd theory basically says herd animals, like humans are, feel safer doing what the herd is doing. So when we say, hey, typically here's what's happened next, or typically it's an in-depth demo for each department that happens next, or typically you and I would then meet for about 30 minutes to start to put together a business case with your data. That's very different than saying what I recommend as a rep, or what I think we should do, or what I would suggest. Those are okay, but they're not great. Typically is great because buyers innately do not trust salespeople, but they trust other people like them. So when we say typically, what we are signaling is people like you do this decision like this. That makes it feel psychologically safe because we have helped other buyers come to that same good decision. We know what those things are, and those are the things that we can help them with. But if we say it as typically others do this, It's just going to be so much better received than anything that's seller focused. I suggest, here's what I think. No, we want to say typically other folks do this because we want to make our buyers feel smart and prepared. We don't want them feeling confused or overwhelmed, which is very easy. Buying processes are not linear. We need to help folks feel comfortable and less at risk so that they can stay with all of the curves and twists and turns that are going to come to their buying team. We need to help them feel prepared for that. That's what we mean by being a trusted advisor, like the highest status in sales, right? When we help them navigate those twists and turns successfully. In order to help buyers feel confident, both in moving forward with signing a deal and in their decision after they make it, we need to do several things. And this is what I call making the business case bulletproof. Specifically, buyers need two things to move forward. They need to be able to quantify value, both ROI, return on investment, and cost of inaction. What's the benefit if we do something? What do we lose if we don't do anything? They need to feel confident that going forward, this solution is not going to blow up in their faces, right? Our job is to take both of these and make them crystal clear. For quantification, we need to work on building a business case that uses their numbers, their assumptions, their data, their timelines. And ideally, we dig into numbers from multiple different departments. Because what I've seen happen sometimes, if we just use numbers from one department, is whenever the presentation is made to the group, another department says, ooh, I don't show those numbers. So we need to be building quantifications and business cases with each of the buying groups that is involved in purchasing or evaluating our solution. That way we don't get ambushed at the end, but we help them coordinate and build consensus on the way to that final presentation. So that means we don't just show them our little ROI tool that we have. Okay, we collaborate with them on building out what does a return on investment look like based on this specific situation. What does a specific cost of inaction look like? What happens? What's the risk if nothing is done in this specific situation? And then also the business case numbers that reflect their reality, not just a range that we've seen with other customers. Because when they help create the business case, they own it. They feel confident. On things like risk, there's all sorts of risk. It's not just, and we want to reduce all sorts of risk, not just monetary risk, right? Reputational risk is some of the biggest felt risk there is out there. What if I attach my name to this and it doesn't work? There's market risk, right? What if we do things whenever the market is like this and then we lose out on even more market share? What if we make a miscalculation and our competitor is able to gobble up even more? So that means we need to discuss things like the implementation timeline, change management, what success looks like at 30, 60, 90 days. If we can provide references from similar customers and similar companies that have solved that same problem, that is ideal. Again, buyers trust other buyers. The more we can make those connections, the better our deals are going to go. And this is something most sellers just simply don't think to do, frankly, because they've never been taught. And I learned it the hard way for sure. The bottom line here is that we want to make the unknown feel known. Because remember, in enterprise sales, the fear of making the wrong decision is often so much stronger than the desire to make the right decision, right? Reps who are consistently hitting and just blowing out quota, they are consistently thinking about the customer's buying process. Not what do I as a rep need, what does this customer need to feel comfortable and confident moving forward? It's those reps that are playing chess, not checkers. Let me know in the comments which of these resonated most with you, which are the ones you've never heard of, but where the light came on suddenly. If you found this helpful, I hope you'll check out my other videos for more strategies like this.